Welcome back, engineers. In the previous video, we got the theoretical understanding about how different API styles work, what are their pros and cons, how did they evolve over time, right? In this video, let's have a quick demo to get some hands-on on all of these technologies and see what we can learn from them. I hope you're ready. Let's get started. So for this demo, we're going to do 4 different types of API styles: SOAP, REST, GraphQL, and gRPC. Right? And for the SOAP server, we are going to use Python as the backend, and we're going to hit the APIs from the Postman. And similarly for REST, we're going to use JavaScript, simple REST server, and then we're going to use Postman for triggering the API for this as well. And then for GraphQL, we're going to use TypeScript, and we're going to hit it with Firefox because GraphQL provides a playground where we can customize our queries before we hit them. Right? And for gRPC, we're going to use GoLang, and GoLang will be the gRPC server, and we're going to use a Go client to send a message to the server, and we're going to see how protocol buffers work in this demo, right? So let's get started. We'll go to VS Code now, and here if we see the structure of this repo, the repo is already available on GitHub, by the way. We have 4 different folders, and each of these folders have their respective README files. So we'll start with SOAP demo. So for running the SOAP demo, I already created the Docker file. It's a simple Python server which is running on app.py, and it is using the SOAP protocol, right? So it is listening on port 8080 once we start it. So let's give it a go. So I've already built the Docker image. We can directly go to step 2 and start our container. So let's go to Docker. So our container is up and running, which is using the SOAP demo as the image. Now we can hit our endpoint, which is running on port 8000. Let's go to Postman now. So now we're going to send a SOAP API request using XML format to the port 8000. Let's send it and see what happens. So we get 200 OK. So I'll give you a second to analyze what this XML is doing and see if you can identify what's the purpose of this message, right? So I hope you were able to crack it. Let's have a go. So as you can see, this is an XML request body and this is the XML response body. And the request body has an envelope, a header, a body, and a method call saying say hello. And we are sending the data in the body, right? So it is expecting 2 things, name and times. And we are giving some kind of a string and the number of times to say hello to the string. And as you can see in the response, we have an XML response. Again, this is having an XML tag, an envelope, a body, and then we have hello response. And this is the actual message that it is supposed to return. It is saying hello there. And if I change the number to, let's say 2, the expectation is that it will say hello 2 times, right? So hello there, hello there. So it's a simple server running on Python, and it is just saying hello how many ever times we requested, right? So that's the whole idea behind it. But just to say a simple hello message, we have to build such a big XML message, and we need to process this response, and the contract is strictly typed and strictly adhered to, right? So as we discussed in the last video, this was a heavy operation and it required a lot of planning, right? Now let's go to the second API style, which is REST. Let's close all this. Let's clear our server. So again, for REST, we have a Docker file and we have the respective README. So I already have the Docker image built. We can go ahead by running the container. So our container is up and running now, which is REST demo. Now we can hit our endpoint. So we're going to use Postman again to hit this server. So the endpoint is localhost 3000 and we are just sending a name, greet there, right? And the expectation is that it will just send me a JSON which says hello there, right? And that's what it does, message hello there. But wait, it sent me something else too. It is sending me the weather, and it is also sending me time, and it is also sending me time in some milliseconds, right? That is not what I asked for, and that is not what I expected. So this is the problem that we talked about in the previous video where we discussed overfetching, right? So I was only expecting the message hello there, but it is giving me additional stuff which I don't need and wasn't even expecting, right? This is the problem with overfetching. And if it were underfetching, it wouldn't even give me the message hello there, and it would just give me something else, right? So that's the problem with REST APIs. But the advantage is that I did not need to build any complex scripts. I could just send whatever I need through request params or maybe a JSON body like this, right? And both would be really simple and human readable. And the response is again in JSON, which is again friendly and human readable, right? So that's the advantage and disadvantage with REST. Now we'll go to GraphQL and see how this problem is mitigated. Let's kill our REST server. We can close all this. Let's open GraphQL and README file and run the container for GraphQL. So our GraphQL server is up and running. And for testing GraphQL, we're going to go to the browser and go into the GraphQL Playground. So we can go into the playground like this. And this is where we can issue our queries. So let's say there is nothing here and we want to build our own query. So we get a list of queries that are available, and GraphQL comes with a built-in documentation for all queries and mutations. And for this demo, I have one query resolver, which is responsible for saying hello Uday, basically, right? So for this, we can build our query like this. First, we'll say I want to use the greet query, and greet is expecting a name and it is expecting some inputs that are supposed to be returned in the response, right? So, and I have three options for that. I can choose a message, time and weather. Let's say I only want a message. I don't want time and weather. And for input, I need to provide a name, and I'm giving that as part of JSON in variables, right? So if I hit this, I'm getting hello there. So this is the message I needed, and I was able to request it through this query, right? And if I want time as well, I can do that. And now time is returned, right, in a nice and friendly format. I can also request for the weather, and I can choose not to do any of these and go back to my original message. So this playground is like a client, and the client is able to decide what response should be returned from the server, right? This was not possible with the earlier REST case where server was deciding what is to be sent. There was no way for the client to say, I don't need this or I need something more. Here I have an option. I can choose to add a message, add a weather, and server will just resolve it and give me the appropriate response. So this solves the problem of underfetching and overfetching, and that's why GraphQL is a powerful tool, right? Now let's go to the final one, which is gRPC. Let's kill our server. So for gRPC, we're going to do server and client locally, and we have a README file for this. So for gRPC, this is going to be a simple demo about how gRPC communication works. I've given all the instructions about the prerequisites and the setup that is to be done. I've already done this, so my code is ready. We can just go ahead and start the server. So let's first run the server and see the demo, and then we will see the different parts of the code base, right? So running the server now. So now server is running on this port. Now we can open another terminal and call the client. Now after running the client, we can see here at the bottom that there is a greeting hello there. So this is the expected response from the server, just like how we did for the previous demos as well. We were giving a string and it is giving a response message with hello, right? So that is what this is doing as well. But what I really want to show you with gRPC is the difference between protocol buffers and JSON, right? So we discussed in the theory video that there is a JSON and then there are protocol buffers, and protocol buffers are really half the size of JSON, right? So for this, I've added some more additional code for you to check out. Let's go through that now. So to understand this, let's have a look at the proto file where the definition of all these methods take place, right? So if we go to the hello world.proto file, we can see that there is a service called greeter, then with the name say hello, and it returns hello reply, right? So it is basically a string. That is what we are defining here, okay? So the request is a string and the response is also a string. That is the data type of the gRPC communication that is expected whoever is using these proto files. And to showcase the difference between protocol buffer and JSON, I've created an additional message called person, which is having different data types within it. And if we were to create a person object and send it over the network, we would create a JSON in a regular REST server, and in gRPC we would create the same thing using protocol buffers, which is in a binary format, right? So our Go client is sending such a message, and if you see here, we are creating a new object for the person like this. So we have an object called Alice with ID, email and everything. If the same thing were to be created in a JSON versus a protocol buffer, it would look something like this. So the protocol buffer is raw bits like this, which is binary, and the JSON would look something like this, which is human readable. But if we look at the size here, protocol size is 101 bytes and JSON size is 185 bytes, right? So I've asked the code to generate the files as well so that we can inspect them. So it created two files, person.bin, person.json. And if we go to the finder, we can also see the size difference. So if you look at the sizes here, 101 bytes, 185 bytes, right? So as you can see here, this is binary archive and this is a JSON file, right? So that is why gRPC is fast. So the messages sent via protocol buffers are in binary, and that is why they're just taking almost half the size of the same message when it is sent in JSON format, right? So that is why gRPC is fast. And to also show that gRPC is client agnostic, we have this command called proto-C, which is converting the hello world.proto into any language that we need. So if I'm working on a server that is using JavaScript, it can convert the proto file into JavaScript. So proto file is where we define the data types and the variables. So the proto file is where we define the data types and variables like you have seen before. And I can use this command to create the respective output for GoLang, let's say. So in this, when we run this command, we get these two files. We can go into them and we can see that the actual implementation, which are in the syntax of GoLang, right? So I will not go into the details of how GoLang works. That will be a video or playlist in itself, but this could be a starter kit for you to explore and see how gRPC works and how GoLang works. Okay, that's all I had for this quick demo, guys. If you are already familiar with these technologies, all these would be familiar to you. But if you have not seen any of these technologies before, this would be a good starter point for you to explore. And if you have any doubts, you can definitely let me know in the comment below. We can explore it together, right? Thank you so much for watching, guys. I will see you in the next video. Please subscribe if you haven't done already. Do leave a like if you found this helpful. I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Cheers.